All right, so one more old war story with Uncle Chris, right? Because last time we told the Minefield story in Iraq, which was honestly the result of just a lack of knowledge, honestly proper awareness of how the system worked. Whereas I also have a minefield story in Iraq that frankly is the result of stupidity. So the story goes that off I go to Iraq in the summer of 2003, which is when this story shows up. I spent a year there as a military advisor to the Iraqi infantry, brand new battalions that we were standing up under CMAT as part of the new Iraqi Army program. So I'm out there. I'm working with the Iraqis, but in the opening few weeks, I mean, for the first 3-4 weeks we were there, yes, there was fighting going on. Literally, we land under fire, I don't know if we were actually under fire. I just know they were firing the flares and we were doing that spiral thing they do into Baghdad International, right? So there's a story there too. Oh my God, Iraq's just one series of stories after another. But what I was trying to say is, in spite of the fact that quite literally armored vehicles are still burning, when I land, and there's still violence going on. In our mind, remember this is the summer of 2003, in our mind, we were literally planning trips to Babylon. We thought, yeah, this is all going to die down in the next, 30 to 90 days, and the war is over, and we're going to be on vacation, on weekends, and we really imagined something quite different than what we got into. And of course, when Ramadan hits that October, all hell breaks loose, and our new reality set in. But let's go back to those naive first few weeks in Iraq when we aren't even training warriors yet. We're setting up, bombed out buildings. So I was in Kirkush, which if you look at it, there's the Sunni triangle, and in one corner of the triangle, all the way out east is Bakuba. All right, it's just east of Baghdad. And right beside Bakuba, as you move more east, just outside of that is Balad Ruz, and that is where Kirkush is. I can see Balad Ruz from my bombed out rooftops. Well, Balad Ruz was a military base that had been destroyed during the Iran-Iraq War. Tank battles fought there, artillery duels, and all this other stuff. So it's just literally a bombed out military base. It just had nothing. No windows, no doors, no roofs, no nothing. And so we were trying to build some semblance of a home out of that, while also trying not to starve to death and to handle the dysentery that we had all gotten. So one of our things was, well, we're going to take a trip to the Iranian border. Remember, we're still naive here, okay? We thought we're all going to get along famously. Off we go from Kirkush, and you go farther east, you hit Jasr Naft, let me pronounce that correctly. So it's Jasr Naft, which is a little village there that we did some patrolling in. A little beyond that, right on the border, is Mandali. Okay, so Mandali is a tiny little village right on the border of Iraq and Iran. And we go there, and there's these odd, old, beautiful mud brick castles. I don't know what they're doing there, but they're there as, I guess, ancient ways of controlling entry points. And sure enough, there's this valley with the Iranian mountains overlooming. And in some sense, it's got this eerie beauty about it, But it's also just littered with trash from the wars, plural. And so, as you can imagine, there's these massive minefields between Iraq and Iran, and particularly at these low points and valleys like this, which give you high-speed access for tanks and all sorts of other vehicles. So there's stuff lying all over, and so we're touring there, just talking to the U.S. troops and stuff like this, and they're kind of giving us some orientation. Here's where the bad guys are. Sure enough, even while we're there, the Iranians launched a bunch of mortars into the valley, sent us all scrambling, but it's a fairly routine harassment sort of thing. So these things just drop randomly. And so while I'm looking around, a good buddy of mine, David, we're kind of just chatting, and I look out there and I see right past the trenches a helmet that these are kind of a heavy, dense fiberglass helmet. It's not what you think it is. It's not metal at all. And I see a helmet out there in the middle of this barbed wire concertina and these rocks. And sure enough, I recognize that it's got a .30 caliber hole through one side. And I'm betting, yeah, that it goes through the other side. Not that I can see that. And I'm like, wow, that's got an entry hole and an exit hole. I thought, okay. And in my morbid curiosity, I decided that, well, that's going to make a really interesting war trophy and topic of discussion. Frankly, I don't know why the hell I grabbed it. It's rather disgusting. It's macabre, and so now it sits in my home, and I throw it in a box, and it stays in the garage. But, you know, war makes you think funny. So I decided, hey, I'm going to go out there, and Dave says to me, he's like, hey, are you sure that's not mined? I looked around, I was like, and you could see these mines. Like, you could clearly see other parts of this were concertina, and there were those round, like, look like Lego mines. These are called VS 1.6 anti-personnel mines. They're Soviet, you know, VS 1.6. I knew the names from previous threat weapons course that I'd taken in Fort Campbell, Kentucky. I couldn't remember them at the time, and I'm going, oh, that's, you know, and so I'm like, well, there's a PM2. So I'm thinking, we're good here. We're good here. They're over there. They're over there. Yeah, let's just step out here. So I go kind of a hop, skip, and a jump, and it's mostly stone and rock. And before you know it, I'm over there, and I look carefully at the helmet. I'm like, yeah, it is a war trophy. I don't want to blow to smithereens, so I'm looking for tripwires or anything. And it's clearly baked. You can still see that's probably a little bit of blood and everything in there. And so I check carefully, tentatively pick this thing up, and yeah, I'm good. Look right next to me. David followed. And I'm like, Dave, what are you doing? And I forget what it was, but he's like, well, I just happened to notice there's this other cool little trophy, so I want that one. So we pick it up, and we both look back, and we're going, hey, this isn't a minefield, right? And I was like, no, what are the odds? So I could see in some of the dirt where I'd stepped. This is a bright, sunny day. And we're over the hill from the rest of our team. You know, no one's paying attention to us, and I was like, we better, just to be safe, we better follow our footsteps back in the sand, right? So we're following our footsteps back, but it's mostly rock, so you have to step up on rock. And then there's this little cliff we had, hurriedly climbed down. Now we're going back up, and I swear, Dave starts to lose his balance, grabs one hand on a rock, and then puts his foot on this ledge. And he looks down and he goes, hey, Chris. I was like, yeah. He goes, hey, man, I'm going to step right there so I can get better footing. That's not a mine, is it? And I look down, and what appears to be a great big thick water cap, like on a, I don't know, like on a water bottle or something, but much larger in diameter. And once again, I'm going Rolodex, right, from the threat school, and I'm like, Dave? He's like, yeah. I said, I'm pretty sure that's a mine. Don't step on it or you'll kill us both. And he's like, are you sure, man? This is in the rock. And I was like, yeah, I'm pretty sure. And so what that was an OZM 160. An OZM 160 is this bizarre tubular mine. And they had dug them because of the stone and the hard baked mud. They dug them straight down. And other than just being an odd shape for a mine, doesn't look like any other mine I've ever seen. Aside from that, one of its telltale signs is it has this large screw cap. Goes right on the top of it. It's just a metal cap. Looks like you're going to pull something off a bottle of pickles or something like this, right? And so I was just like, Jesus. He almost stepped on it anyway. And I'm like, Jesus, don't step on that. And he's like, all right. And I grabbed his hand and pulled him off that. He got a better footing. And then really carefully, we make our way up the cliff. And we get back to our solid footing above the minefield. And so we're kind of laughing about that. And he's standing with his trophy and I'm standing with mine. And Bill, at the time our team leader, comes over and just like, what the holy? He's yelling. We're both busted. We're both like, yeah, this was really, really dumb. And Dave and I've got this sheepish look on our face, and Bill is just freaking out, And he's like, why would you do that? And oh my God, that's so stupid and everything else. Bill's Special Forces, Green Beret guy. And of course he was right. There's David and I, the two infantry grunts going, we don't know, drag our knuckles on the ground. And so we got out of there with a lot of ass pain and cajoling from our teammates who were just like, how could anybody be that stupid? But that was the mine story in Iraq. And I think maybe that's why I keep this stupid thing, is because Dave almost blew us both up. It's a pretty harmless story compared to the butt pucker terror of the mine story in the Korean DMZ. I'm still being naive. We're still, like I said, 3-4 weeks in country, and I'm like, yeah, and it kind of goes to show you why young guys and new guys tend to do stupid things and get themselves killed. Yeah, guilty. I will say the other minefield incident in Iraq was just once in a while we'd get mortared or rocketed. Okay, it happens. This is towards the end of our tour. This is probably, I'm guessing, April, May of 2004. Maybe June, I don't know. But anyway, we hear the rockets come over, and we're waiting for the explosion. And, you hear them, and they fire several rockets, and we're like, oh, crap. Is it going to be a 122? What is that? Is it going to be a big boom? And nothing went off. And we're like, oh, okay. We jump in a thin-skinned pickup truck because that's what advisors drive, is Toyota pickup trucks. And we're going out there that morning to prep a lane to train some of the NCOs on land nav. And I mean, the Iraqi soldiers come over and they're like, da 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 da, and they're with the Gurkha security guards. I'm like, da 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 no 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 no. When they stopped us, I was like, hey, maybe it's a minefield, half joking. And so Buck Buchanan, he gets out of another Green Beret we're working with, and he jumps out of the truck and says, hey, sit fast, Larsen. And so he goes running over there, and he has a huddle with them, blah, 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 blah. And he comes back with, just this, like, deer in the headlight kind of, he's like, dude, they got a minefield. I was like, oh, no. Wow, we've been using this dirt trail going down a wadi and all this other stuff. I was like, I can't believe, we use a lot of the same roads, but there's 100 of them. And I was like, I can't believe they buried an IED. And he goes, no, it's not an IED. He's like, you remember the rockets? And I was like, yeah, the ones that never went off. He's like, they must have forgotten to take the pins out of them or something, because the fins are sticking and they impacted the road we were on right down there. And so they're all like, we got to get EOD, and they defused them and they took them away. And poor Buck, he was like zooming in a cloud of dust. I don't think we would have seen him. I think we would have hit him, and God knows what happens then, right? So a field expedient, aerial delivered minefield was my second experience, but that wasn't nearly as near of a miss. I think it just, kind of surprised poor Buck. So there we go. There's my minefield stories from Iraq, and thanks for joining us. Trust me, there will be more war stories with Uncle Chris. Thanks.